In my previous life, my best friend bound a system that allowed her to temporarily swap memories with others. As the college entrance exam approached, she urged me to study hard while secretly mocking me with smug satisfaction. After the exam, while celebrating her high score, she exchanged rewards with the system to completely erase me. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day she bound the system. I know she wants to use the knowledge in my mind to get into a prestigious university during the college entrance exam while pushing me into the abyss, but I had already been admitted to Tsinghua University, and for the past few months, my mind has been filled with nothing but handsome guys and money. Everything else has long been forgotten. If you want to blame anyone, blame yourself for being too foolish to notice the problem all these times. This was the last sentence I heard before I died. And when I opened my eyes again, I had returned to my senior year of high school. Cold sweat broke out on my forehead, and I instinctively looked around. The chatter of my classmates and the whirring sound of the fan reminded me of everything. I was reborn. Olivia, are you feeling unwell? A hand waved back and forth in front of me. Only then did I focus my gaze and follow the arm to look at the person who had caused my death in my previous life, my future bestie, Lena. Lena grinned and reached out to pinch my face, but I slapped her hand away. The force was so strong that it drew the attention of the surrounding classmates. What's wrong? Did I pinch you too hard? Sorry. Lena clasped her hands together and smiled ingratiatingly in front of me, her radiant smile gradually overlapping with the ugly face that had just ordered the system to eliminate me. At this moment, I was absolutely certain Lena didn't suddenly turn bad. She had just been hiding it well all along. Olivia, your face was terrifyingly pale just now. It's such a relief to see you're okay. Yes, that's really great. I said these words while staring intently at Lena. That's really great. Congratulations on killing my kindness and compassion for you, leaving only ruthless targeting and suppression. Reborn once. I want you to spend a lifetime of suffering to apologize to my past self and my parents. Seeing my agreement, Lena seemed to let down her guard and deliberately placed her already worn-out backpack on my desk in front of me. I noticed the loquats at home were about to ripen, so I checked on them every day. Finally, they were ready to eat these past couple of days, so I woke up early to pick them for you. Looking at the half-ripe, half-unripe loquats before me, my heart was filled with irony. In her previous life, Lena was extremely skilled at manipulating people. She first deliberately revealed to me that her parents favored sons over daughters, and then, on my birthday, she went out early in the morning to pick loquats from the tree for me. What did she say at the time? Oh, with scratches on her face, she wished me a happy birthday. Olivia, I don't have any money. Since I was little, this has been the only snack I've ever had. It's just too humble. I hope you don't mind. Seeing her wearing a faded school uniform and carrying a worn-out backpack, I was deeply moved. Even though I was allergic to loquats, I still reached out and accepted them, thanking her warmly. I then turned to my parents and suggested that we sponsor Lena's education. After all, the company allocates special funds every year to support underprivileged students. If we can help her at this critical moment, she might be able to carve out a life of her own. My parents had always indulged me since I was a child, so how could they refuse when I pleaded on her behalf? To avoid taking away the spots of the children who were originally sponsored, all of Lena's expenses were covered by my parents from their own pockets, but at that time, I didn't know that this action would soon bring me a devastating disaster. Some people are simply not worthy of sympathy. Their malice matches their suffering. As Lena moved from the dormitory into my home and we spent more time together, my academic performance suddenly began to fluctuate dramatically. No matter how familiar I was with the questions during practice, as soon as I entered the exam hall, they turned into incomprehensible texts. One exam doesn't matter, but the subsequent string of poor results made my classmates look at me with strange expressions. Strangely, while my grades were plummeting, Lena's scores soared like a roller coaster, quickly climbing to the position that originally belonged to me. Lena's scores on regular practice tests were still low, but she claimed she already knew all the material and didn't need to waste time on basic questions. Nevertheless, she thoughtfully bought me many practice papers for my usual review, encouraging me that as long as I worked hard, I would surely be rewarded. But that year, under immense psychological pressure, I scored an unprecedented low on the college entrance exam, not to mention university. I didn't even qualify for a junior college. Lena, on the other hand, was admitted to the nation's top prestigious university. My parents, afraid that I might be too overwhelmed and do something drastic, asked Lena to take me on a trip to relax. Little did they know that would be the last time they saw me alive. Lena used the excuse of the fresh air in the forest to take me to a secluded mountaintop. There was no cell phone signal even on the cliff, but just as I wanted to go back, Lena took out a hammer she had prepared in advance and knocked me down. She stepped on my abdomen with a mocking tone, continuously applying pressure. I never expected your parents to care about you so much, even though you've performed so poorly in your exams. I struggled to grab her ankle, trying to call for help, but she grabbed my hair and smashed my head against the rocks dozens of times. I felt something pierce my eyeball, the sharp stones grinding against it, causing excruciating pain, and I quickly lost my vision. You see, if you don't die, how will your parents obediently hand over the company to me as the next heir? Tisk, tsk, tsk, what kind of look is that? Don't blame me, after all, wasn't it you who brought me into your home in the first place? Blame yourself for pretending to be generous and naive when you're already a winner in life. Do I need your charity? Everything I want, I will get my hands on. Enough, I'm tired of all this talking. System, I want to claim my reward and eliminate Olivia. System has received the host's command. Reward exchange for the college entrance exam successful. Elimination method, suffocation. Instantly, my lungs were compressed painfully, and in extreme fear and regret, I lost consciousness. It was only at this moment that I realized the fluctuating scores all along were Lena's doing. She used the system to exchange memories with me, which is why every time I saw the exam paper, I couldn't answer a single question. I snapped back to reality and glanced at the loquat in Lena's hand, forcing a polite smile onto my face. I'm sorry, I'm naturally allergic to loquats. Please keep them away from me. Now I know her true intentions. Playing with her is no different from playing with a dog. In this life, she is only fit to be a stranger to me. Lena's hand holding the loquat froze in place. A mischievous classmate in the class whistled. No way, Lena. These loquats look so sour. How could you even think of giving them to Olivia? She probably has never seen such a sour version in her life. Did you just pick them from some random greenbelt? You. Tears welled up in Lena's eyes, prompting another round of jeers from the boys across from her. Oh my, what are you getting all upset about? You didn't even bother to find out her basic preferences before giving her a birthday gift. It's obvious you're not sincere. I just wanted to be friends with Olivia. You scared me to death. If this is how you treat friends, it's really something. You keep putting on that pitiful act with those worthless tears, making it look like someone has done something terrible to you. Hearing this, I raised an eyebrow. In my previous life, aside from attending classes, I didn't interact much with my classmates. Lena always told me they were bad people at heart. It turns out I had already seen through Lena's facade this early on. How could I have been so blind not to notice such an obvious sign? I didn't get involved in the argument and simply packed my bag and left. Lena quickly caught up as I walked away. Olivia, wait up, I have something to tell you. Then go ahead and say it. Lena stamped her foot, glancing at the parents and students bustling around. It's really important. Can we talk somewhere else? I refused. My driver is already waiting for me outside. I don't have time. Lena, seeing that I had no intention of compromising, finally spoke up. I heard from the teacher that your family has a special poverty alleviation program. Can you let me join too? My parents favor boys over girls. I usually don't even dare to go home, and the people in the dormitory bully me because I'm poor. I really don't know what to do. With every word she said, she followed me step by step, haunting me like a persistent monk. It wasn't until I got into the car and slammed the door shut that she seemed to snap out of it and stared at me. You're following me because you want to go home with me, aren't you? If I remember correctly, you're a boarding student, right? I pointed toward the school gate. The principal is already watching you over there. If you don't head back now, you'll miss the dormitory lights out. Have you agreed to my request? She clung to my car door, refusing to let go, her brows furrowed tightly, looking as though she wouldn't let me leave unless I agreed. I never knew you could ask for a favor like that. I then smiled lightly and said, all right, I understand, I'll mention it to my parents. Lena finally stopped crying and smiled, but just then, the sound of the iron gate slamming shut echoed from behind. Surprised, Lena turned around and saw the grade-level teacher starting to lock the gate. At that moment, she had no time to keep talking to me and immediately rushed to the iron gate to beg the teacher for mercy, and I instructed the driver to take me home. Miss, the master and mistress are not at home these 2 days. Do you need me to relay a message for you? A message? What message? Amused, I propped my chin on my hand and met the driver's gaze in the rearview mirror. Do I have to satisfy the desires of every beggar who asks me for money? I just agreed to mention it for her, but I didn't say when. How about we wait until the day she dies? We can spend some money to buy her a big wreath. Would that finally satisfy her? The next day was the monthly exam, and Lena, who ranked near the bottom, was seated quite far from me. I could see that half of the content on the exam paper was familiar to me, and the other half was not. I immediately guessed that Lena's system had its constraints, and one of them was probably that she had to stay with me at all times. To test this theory, I deliberately skipped the afternoon exam. When Lena saw me coming out of the infirmary during evening self-study, her anger was clearly rising. "Olivia, why didn't you tell me you weren't going to the exam? I've already asked the teacher for leave. My stomach is a bit upset. Students often have minor ailments like headaches or fevers. Can't you just tough it out? What if you feel unwell on the day of the college entrance exam? Will you ask for leave and miss it then?" I counted to 3 silently in my heart, then turned around. Lena bumped into me and fell to the ground, looking up at me in a daze. "Lena, aren't you meddling too much?" Lena's face instantly turned as red as a pig's liver. "Whether I take time off for feeling unwell is my own business. My parents also want me to take good care of my health. How did it become about prioritizing exams when it comes from your mouth? Although this might sound a bit rude, but who are you?" Lena clenched her fists under her skirt, barely containing her anger, but I knew she didn't dare to break with me openly just yet. Otherwise, if the system failed, she would be the one to suffer. I tilted my head and lightly crouched down. "The most important point is, never compare yourself to me. The one who needs to rely on academic qualifications to change their fate isn't me. It's you." The school worked quickly, with midterm exams approaching. The grading of the test papers was completed in less than a day. My score was in the middle range, a far cry from my previous consistent first place, an unimaginably low score. I took a deep breath as I watched someone else's name take the top spot that was once mine. But you can't make an omelet without breaking eggs. These usual grades don't matter. The final college entrance exam is the real conclusion. But I put all these accounts on Lena's head. The teacher announced the scores from highest to lowest. When Lena's name was called, the homeroom teacher's sagging face tightened instantly in anger. "Some of our classmates have learned the story of Dong Sure imitating She Sure quite well, seeing others hand in blank papers. You follow suit and do the same, right? Lena, stand up right now." The homeroom teacher slammed the cup forcefully onto the desk. Olivia wasn't feeling well and didn't participate in the second half. Yet her score is still in the middle range. You're just like the others, turning in a blank exam. It only makes your already abysmal grades even worse. When the teacher from the next class asked about it, I didn't even dare say you're a student from our class. With an attitude like that, you think you can apply for a scholarship? You're just daydreaming. Who said I was applying for a scholarship? Lena stood up in a fluster to argue back, only to see the homeroom teacher holding up a thin application form. She hurriedly ran up to the podium and snatched the application form from the homeroom teacher's hand. An intense sense of inferiority enveloped Lena, and she guiltily crumpled the form in her hand into a ball. She suddenly looked up and stared at me. "It was you, wasn't it? You did this, didn't you?" I frowned slightly, my expression helpless. "Didn't you tell me yesterday that you wanted to apply for financial aid? But the company said your grades were too poor to qualify, so I specifically asked the homeroom teacher to apply for a scholarship for you. You're just deliberately messing with me. Who wants your fake sympathy?" Lena tore the paper in her hand to shreds, and while the homeroom teacher wasn't paying attention, she immediately pushed her aside and ran out of the classroom. The classmates in the class were whispering among themselves, occasionally glancing at me. "This Lena is so ungrateful. She was the one who said her family favors boys over girls and that they have no money. Why is she upset when someone helped her submit the application form? Why does she cry so easily? It's like we're bullying her." Listening to the whole class criticize Lena, I quickly sent her report card to her parents' phone under the desk. Now it's time to watch the show. On the day of the midterm exam, Lena forcefully took the seat behind me in order to use the system smoothly. I calmly and leisurely recited vocabulary words to myself, pretending not to see. Lena, behind me, was practically trying to bore a hole through me with her gaze. She muttered under her breath, "This time, I'm going to make sure you all get proven wrong." Whether we were proven wrong or not is unknown, but her face really got slapped, almost to the point of being completely disgraced. Lena's parents received the text message and, furious, took the bus to the school. Cursing all the way from the school gate up to the teaching building, they sped along, their language heavily laced with profanity. The exam had just begun when a wildly dressed woman suddenly burst into the classroom, grabbed Lena by the ear, and slapped her twice. The students screamed in fright, and the homeroom teacher, hearing the commotion, came and escorted them to the office. During the lunch break, I deliberately swung by the office to take a look. They still hadn't let Lena off the hook. Her mother, a genuine countrywoman, had a strong hand, with her suntanned arms swinging forcefully. It didn't take many slaps before Lena's face swelled up like a steamed bun. She hit her while cursing, "You little wretch, I worked so hard farming to put you through school, and this is how you repay me. Your total scores don't even add up to one of their subjects, and you still have the nerve to keep asking for money from home. I should have drowned you right after you were born." To save us from this shame, the man also stood by and added a couple more kicks. "I've always said girls are useless, don't let her go to school, it's a waste of money, now she's got the nerve to lie and deceive people." The homeroom teacher couldn't bear it and tried to help Lena up, which only made the two even angrier. "Teacher, you don't know, at home she always makes excuses to avoid doing any work, and at such a young age, she already dares to steal money from my wallet. When her little brother was born, she dropped him and gave him a big bump on the head. I was scared to death at the time." The woman, with her remarkably burly physique, was crying pitifully, which made people feel a chill. "If anything happens to my son, I won't be able to go on living." "That's right, teacher, just let me take her back home. After all, whether a girl studies or not, she'll still get married." Lena was so frightened that she repeatedly kowtowed to the homeroom teacher. Completely devoid of the pretentiousness she had shown earlier in the classroom. "Teacher, please help me. If I go back, I'll die. I beg you, I promise I'll study hard from now on." The man immediately pulled out his belt and started whipping him. "You're my damn son, I decide everything, how dare you disobey me?" After saying that, he furrowed his brows, his face contorting into a hideous expression. I composed myself and didn't continue watching. It turns out that in my previous life, the calamity I helped Lena overcome was of this nature. Ever since my parents took her in, they have cared for her with the utmost affection. Seeing how well we got along, they even ensured she had the same standard of living as I did, from food and clothing to daily necessities. My father even planned for her future career and would always bring back 2 gifts whenever he went on a business trip. Yet Lena remained unsatisfied, coveting things that did not belong to her. And what I did was to feed the ambition of an ungrateful wolf. After the meal, everyone was preparing for the afternoon exam, and I was no exception. After reviewing all the key points one more time, I took my stationery and calmly entered the exam mindset. By the time our exam was completely over and the sky was growing dark, Lena still hadn't shown up again. Just as I was packing up my stationery after the exam, a girl nearby suddenly waved her hand, and a few curious people immediately gathered around her. I just had my period and had a stomachache, so I went to the infirmary to get some painkillers. Guess who I saw? I actually saw Lena. Seriously, what's so surprising about that? Surprising? It's actually very surprising. Do you know what she looks like now? The girl excitedly gestured with her hands. Oh my, it looked terrifying. Both of her eyelids were swollen and bruised, leaving only a slit for her to squint through. When I got there, the school nurse was still bandaging her up. Her body was covered in bruises from being whipped with a leather strap. Who would dare do something like this? Who would hit someone at school? Who else could it be? Her parents, of course. No way. Just because she did poorly on an exam, she gets a brutal beating. I often rank at the bottom too, but my mom never did anything like that to me. The girl shook her head with a look that said, "You just don't get it," and clicked her tongue. "You don't understand. I heard she has a younger brother at home. Her parents never agreed to let her study here in the first place. It was only because she kept insisting she was the top student in her grade that they reluctantly allowed her to come." Top student, more like the bottom of the class. Exactly. Her parents wanted to pull her out of school today and take her back home to get married early, but Lena refused. Her dad ended up whipping her with a leather belt until she passed out. Why wasn't she taken to the hospital then? Her parents thought it was shameful, and after they finished hitting her, they said they had no money to treat her and just left. Before going home, I took a detour to the infirmary, where Lena was sobbing while applying medicine. Half of her hair had been pulled out, and the corner of her mouth was swollen as if stung by a bee. The hydrogen peroxide in the infirmary pressed against her wounds made her twitch in pain on the spot. Lena's parents are now a nightmare she can never escape. I paused at the door for a moment, then turned and left. After all, someone like her deserves to experience the life he was originally meant to have, doesn't she? Lena spent a full week recuperating. If she went out with that face, horror movies would specifically invite her to star in them. During her convalescence, the homeroom teacher found me with an excited expression. spreading out my exam papers, which clearly showed several perfect scores. "Olivia, you really need to step it up this time. Your midterm exam was a joint assessment with several nearby universities, and you ranked first overall, according to the rules. The top 3 students in our city can participate in the Math Olympiad. If you win an award, you'll secure a spot for admission to Tsinghua or Peking University. The teacher has already filled out the forms for you. Just focus on reviewing these next couple of days." I quickly nodded, looking at the thick stack of materials in my hand and silently making a resolution. This time, I must take back everything that rightfully belongs to me. On the day the Olympiad ended, Lena limped back into the classroom. At this moment, she didn't seem as spirited as she was a week ago. Whenever she saw her classmates yawning or raising their hands to stretch, she would instinctively cover her head and tremble in fear. In her eyes, I am now her only lifeline. Thanks to her being beaten half to death, Lena's parents temporarily agreed that after the college entrance exams, they would decide whether she could continue her education based on her scores. "If you do well in the exam, the house will be filled with the sound of firecrackers, and a feast will be held to celebrate. If you don't do well, you'll be dressed up and married off, becoming a living savings account for your brother's bride price." Lena made pleasing me her top priority, but when she showed kindness to me, I unusually did not refuse, reigniting hope in her eyes. What she didn't know was that I had won second place in the Math Olympiad and had already secured a direct admission to Tsinghua or Peking University. The college entrance exam she was hoping would turn her life around was nothing but a dead end for me. Having secured the direct admission to Tsinghua or Peking University, in principle, there was no need for me to continue attending classes at school. But to keep Lena in the dark, I still showed up on time every day. I would assign her to buy takeout for me, under the scorching sun. It took her an hour to make the round trip. To get back on time, she had to go hungry and continue with her classes right after buying the food. Last time the homeroom teacher pleaded on her behalf. The condition was that she was not allowed to skip class. If she violated it, the teacher would call again. Whenever she showed a pained expression, would tactlessly ask, "Are you feeling unwell somewhere? You don't have to go if you don't want to." Lena saw that the duck she was about to eat was about to grow wings and fly away. Even if she was extremely reluctant and gritting her teeth, she could only force a smile and reply, "No, I'm happy to run errands for you. We're friends, after all." I patted her on the shoulder and said, "You're right, I was going to give you some money for running errands, but since we're friends, I can't give you money. I don't want you to think I don't see you as a friend." Lena was so angry she felt like spitting blood. The monthly exam arrived as scheduled, and Lena still unreasonably occupied the seat behind me, writing rapidly under the system's influence. Throughout several consecutive exams, Lena wrote as if flying, even completing and submitting her English paper swiftly, a subject in which she usually only scored between 20 and 30 points, just as the classmates thought she had given up again. The results the next day left everyone astonished. Lena's name was prominently written at the top of the grade ranking list. Seeing her name, she breathed a sigh of relief and glanced triumphantly at everyone in the classroom. "I told you so. Don't look down on people. No matter how good your grades are, I can still overtake you in no time, right?" The homeroom teacher was also shocked by the results and specifically brought the test paper to ask her about the problem-solving steps. Lena nodded in front of everyone. "Sure, isn't that simple?" But just as she sat down to write, I suddenly stood up and walked out. Lena panicked and quickly called out to stop me. "Where are you going?" I was puzzled. "I'm just going to the restroom." "Of course, you take your exam. My going to the restroom doesn't bother you. Can't you write without me here?" Lena sat back in her seat with a grim expression. I wandered around downstairs for a while, bought a novel, and returned to the classroom just in time. At that moment, Lena was accused of cheating by the homeroom teacher for failing to explain the problem-solving steps. She pounded the table and yelled, "I told you, I didn't cheat. I didn't cheat at all. If you have the guts, show me the evidence." Thanks to Lena's relentless shouting, she earned herself a 5,000-word self-criticism essay to be read aloud at the Monday criticism assembly. Lena was not convinced, but the homeroom teacher's casual remark scared her into silence. "What, do you want me to notify your parents?" Lena immediately quieted down like a frostbitten eggplant. By the afternoon, the entire floor had spread the news that Lena from Class 1, Grade 12, had somehow obtained the answers to the 9-school joint exam. She was nothing but a cheating dog who relied on hacks. I stroked my chin. In a way, that statement was completely correct, having learned from the last experience. Lena didn't dare to fill in all the answers during the exam and only symbolically completed a portion of the questions, so when she encountered questions she didn't know, she didn't even notice anything unusual. As the top student in the grade, I was indeed unsure about the advanced questions, but in theory, I shouldn't have made mistakes on the easier ones. I'm spending all my time now watching the market trends. Preparing to start a foreign trade business through family connections after the college entrance exams, just a little more time, and I believe the deeply ingrained information in my mind will mostly fade away, so the whole grade enjoyed another good show. Lena's scores rose rapidly from the initial 200+ points, with each increase of about 100 points, the class atmosphere gradually shifted as well. Many who didn't know the truth thought Lena had made up her mind to study seriously. Little did they know, with the help of her system cheat. Every day after returning to the dormitory, she would just play with cosmetics and read novels. Whenever a classmate asked her for help, she would put on a condescending attitude and refuse with a look of disdain. Learning is all about talent. If your grades aren't improving, you might as well stop struggling and just settle for what you have. Not everyone is as lucky as I am, suddenly having a breakthrough in their studies. To be honest, those who don't do well in the college entrance exam just have a poor mindset. Unfortunately, I don't have that kind of worry. With my score, getting into a top university is a piece of cake, isn't it? Time flies, and a month later, the college entrance exam admission tickets were distributed on time. Lena held her ticket tightly in her hand, her eyes gleaming with excitement. I couldn't help but chuckle behind her. I wonder if she'll still be able to laugh when she sees her exam results. On the day of the college entrance exam, the teacher wore a red cheongsam to see the students off. Lena was bored, playing with her phone on the side. Someone kindly reminded her to review the key points again, but she sneered, "Only those like you, who can't improve their grades, need to keep reviewing. Do you really think I rely on last-minute cramming like you?" It wasn't until she entered the exam hall that she realized something was wrong. Although I had obtained a recommendation for admission, I did not give up on the college entrance exam, so I followed all the procedures just like a regular exam taker, normally registering for information and receiving my admission ticket. Before the exam, Lena specifically confirmed that she and I were in the same classroom, but when the exam started, there was no one at my seat for a long time. Lena grew anxious and raised her hands several times, wanting to go out and look for me. However, the proctor warned her that if she continued to disrupt others during the exam, she would receive a demerit. So after finishing the first exam, Lena, drenched in sweat, started frantically sending me messages. "Olivia, why didn't you come to the exam? Something as important as the college entrance exam. Won't your parents be heartbroken and disappointed if you don't take it? Tell me where you are, I'll come find you. Answer the phone." But no matter how many messages she sent or how many calls she made, I wouldn't see them, because I had already boarded a flight to Sonia the night before the college entrance exam began. I needed to scout the path for my business in advance and lay the foundation. While Lena was frantically trying to reach me, I was catching up on sleep at the hotel. The 3 days of the college entrance exam turned into a tremendous ordeal for Lena. On the last day, she finally faced the grim reality in despair. I hadn't taken the college entrance exam, and she couldn't use the system to swap scores with me. Just before the final exam, her hands trembling, she kept calling me over and over. A classmate passing by asked in confusion, "Why are you contacting Olivia? She was already admitted to Tsinghua or Peking University through early admission and won't be taking the college entrance exam." Lena felt as if she had been plunged into an ice cellar. Her phone fell from her hand and shattered into pieces. Just like her future life, the bell rang, marking the end of the 3-day college entrance exams. Lena, her face as pale as a ghost, rushed out the door and saw me standing by the car with a smile. Instantly, she charged at me like a deranged lunatic, trying to hit me, but the security guards at the entrance mistook her for a rioter. 2 guards, one armed with a baton and the other with a shield, pinned Lena firmly to the ground. Electrocuted into muscle spasms, Lena lost control of her bladder, and a puddle of liquid seeped from under her skirt onto the ground. Many people hurried past, covering their noses. Tears also streamed down Lena's cheeks, falling drop by drop onto the ground. I watched the scene without any intention of helping. "If you had known it would come to this, why did you act that way in the first place?" Lena was eventually identified by the teacher and released from the security booth. As she was let go, the security guard muttered, "She looks decent enough. So why did she get so impulsive at the sight of a pretty girl?" It's as if the girl owed her money. Seeing that my car hadn't left yet, Lena limped after me, walking into the woods. Lena suddenly spoke up, You did this on purpose to mess with me." I turned around with a surprised expression. "You only realize that now. I've worked so hard just for this college entrance exam, but you ruined it." Lena's sinister eyes were fixed on me, as if she wanted to bite a piece of flesh off me. "I know you deliberately submitted the application form to humiliate me, and I also know it was you who sent the message to call my parents here. I've endured so much for this college entrance exam, and now you've ruined it all, making all my efforts go to waste. So the system's punishment really exists." Lena froze for a moment, a trace of panic flashing across her face. "I don't understand what you're talking about." I found a tree, climbed up to a branch in a few moves, and let my legs dangle, crossed. "Am I wrong? The reason you've been doing so well on these recent exams is because you stole my memories to take them, isn't it? How do you know all this?" I looked at her with a smile, my legs swaying unconsciously. "Of course I know. Not only do I know you have a system, but I also know the benefits it brings you. But do you know, with success comes failure. Since the system rewards you for completing tasks, then when you fail a task, you will inevitably face punishment, although I don't know what the punishment is. Seeing you like this, I'm guessing you'll either die or be skinned alive." Lena kept shaking her head and stepping back, her face full of unwillingness and lingering fear. She didn't even see the stone under her feet and fell flat on her face in a humiliating tumble. I watched her figure running into the distance and didn't go after her, because I knew that, compared to the punishment itself, the harder part was the waiting period before it. A person who is certain to die and knows the date of their death will suffer immensely with each passing day of the countdown. After the college entrance exam ended, classmates began sharing their travel plans in the class group chat, and someone even started a score estimation poll. Everyone filled in their scores except for me and Lena. As for me, there's no need to explain. Being exempted from the exam meant I didn't have to worry about my score. Lena's absence, however, sparked discussions among her classmates. Wasn't she acting all arrogant before? Why is she so quiet now? I saw her frantically calling Olivia during the last exam. If I didn't know better, I'd think she didn't know anything. I bet she really didn't write anything. I was sitting diagonally in front of her during the exam, and by the time I finished and put my pen down, her paper was still completely blank. No way. How could someone hand in a blank paper? Anyway, whether it's a donkey or a horse, we'll find out on the day the college entrance exam results are released. On the day the results came out, it was pouring rain, and everyone in the group was waiting to see Lena's humiliation. Some curious people had already looked up her score using her exam admission number, 250 points, a score so low that she couldn't even get into a vocational school or technical secondary school. Holy crap, really, 250 points. Only a real idiot could score that low. Didn't she brag before about being possessed by the spirit of a genius? How did she end up performing so poorly in the actual exam? Didn't she also have a history of cheating in the 9 school joint exams before? Maybe the later ones were the same, but even with all her tricks, she couldn't get the questions for the college entrance exam. Just as everyone was mocking Lena, I noticed her number had abruptly disappeared from the group chat. I don't think Lena is scared, given her personality. If she saw these messages, she would definitely be furious. The only possibility is that the system's punishment has begun. Although I didn't take the college entrance exam, my classmates still warmly invited me to join the graduation ceremony. After the ceremony, everyone gathered together for a meal. At the dinner table, a girl who had been close to Lena before hesitated and spoke up. "It seems Lena got married. How is that possible? She's only 18 this year." "It's true. I saw her mom's WeChat post on my feed, with Lena and a man exchanging rings in wedding attire." Everyone exchanged glances, although they usually disapproved of Lena's behavior. They couldn't bear the thought of an 18-year-old girl in the prime of her life having her future ruined by her parents. Only I know that all of this is her own doing. After drinking 2 glasses of wine, I felt increasingly hot, so I got up and went to the restroom to get some fresh air. While washing my hands, I suddenly heard the restroom door being banged on loudly. When I opened the door, Lena appeared before me. To be honest, I was startled, because at that moment, she was completely different from the Lena I knew before. It seemed as though she had been drained of all her vitality during the half-month of marriage. Her skin was sallow, and there were marks on her neck that looked like she had been strangled. "How did you get here?" "Ha ha ha, you ask me why I'm here. That's a good question, a really good question. If it weren't for you, how could I have ended up like this?" Lena suddenly pulled out a knife from behind and lunged straight at me. She muttered under her breath, "All of you who bullied me must die." I spotted the bloodstains on the knife handle that hadn't been fully cleaned. Suddenly, a thought crossed my mind. Did you kill your parents? She grinned, revealing slightly yellowed teeth. Yes, and my brother too. They sold me off to that old man's house to be a maid, all for a measly dowry. If they wouldn't let me go, why should I let them live? She licked the corner of her mouth, somewhat morbidly licking the tip of the knife. Of course, the person I most want to kill is you. Maybe if I kill you, the system will give me another chance to start over. With that, she lunged at me. I sidestepped to avoid the first attack, then delivered a high kick to Lena's chin. The intense pain and the gushing nosebleed made the bathroom look like a murder scene. She still wouldn't give up, continuing to swing the knife and charging forward, stabbing wildly and without any technique. Just then, a classmate from outside knocked on the door and came in. Olivia, you've been in there for a long time. Are you feeling unwell? Little did they know that the moment the door was pushed open, they would witness a bloody and brutal scene, instantly letting out a scream. The piercing scream drew the attention of everyone in the entire building. Lena, meanwhile, tried to take the opportunity to escape, but, absurdly, due to long-term malnutrition and the slippery floor tiles, she slipped and fell after just a few steps, her own nose blood causing the fall. Instinctively, she used her hands to brace herself but forgot she was still holding the sharp knife, which ended up piercing straight through her own heart. When the police came to take our statements, everyone could testify on my behalf. It was Lena who went crazy and took her own life. At the same time, based on my earlier recording, it was confirmed that the murderer who killed 4 people, including her husband, was none other than Lena. When the forensic examiner placed Lena into the body bag, her eyes were still wide open, bloodshot, and upon closer inspection, there were even signs of bleeding inside. Many students ran to vomit at the sight of this scene. However, I forced myself to watch the entire process, because today I finally avenged Olivia from my previous life. The moment Lena was confirmed dead, the system's voice suddenly blared. Host death detected, task execution failed. System entering self-destruction mode. I let out a cold snort and flushed the tissue stained with Lena's blood down the toilet. Everything in the world has already been secretly marked with a price. Trying to gain without effort will only lead to losing more. During my college years, I used my professional knowledge to partner with my parents in starting a factory. As soon as we began selling, it was highly praised and captured the majority of orders in the market. Watching my parents take pride in the achievements I had made, I suddenly felt that everything I had experienced before was like a dream, a nightmare, a beautiful dream. But fortunately, in the end, I still woke up. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My sister-in-law asked my husband and me to take her to Mount Thunder to play. Saying she wanted to take photos of lightning, I reasoned with her, explaining the risks and persuading her to come down the mountain. The next day, Lightning Goddess quickly went viral. My sister-in-law blamed me for stopping her and, when we went up the mountain again, deliberately left me behind, causing me to die from hypothermia. Reborn and back again, I was sitting in the back seat, listening to my sister-in-law animatedly explain how to take the best lightning photos. This time, let her face the thunder tribulation on her own. Brother, which set should I choose, the metallic one or the fairy one? Whenever my sister-in-law is in the car, she always takes the front passenger seat. When I first married my husband Harry, my sister-in-law immediately declared her territory. This spot is forever mine, and you can't have it either. I couldn't be bothered to argue with a little girl over such things, although this little girl wasn't actually that young. She was 25, a college graduate still living off her parents. The whole family insisted she was just a child. How could I possibly argue with that? I watched blankly as Harry earnestly analyzed the pros and cons of 2 outfits with her, all while slowly processing the shock of having been reborn. Yes, I had been reborn, in my previous life. I also went with them to Thunder Mountain for a trip. It was on the way that my sister-in-law suggested going to the mountaintop to take photos of the lightning. This was a quietly emerging trend. Thunder Mountain got its name because of a unique characteristic. Sometimes, thunder would strike on sunny days, with lightning hitting the mountaintop, creating a spectacular sight. A few days ago, several boys dressed in dress went to the mountaintop to take photos and accidentally captured the moment when lightning struck the peak. In the next shot, a man in a flying fish costume is spreading his arms, with lightning-like wings, ready to help him soar. This image quickly went viral, attracting many people who came specifically to see it. The local tourism department has issued multiple warnings, but no one heeds the advice, even when the scenic area closed the roads. It couldn't stop their determination. My sister-in-law was one of them. At first, she just said she wanted to visit the open scenic area. How could Harry refuse? He happily agreed to drive there. Unexpectedly, when the car reached halfway up the mountain, his sister suddenly revealed her true intentions and bluntly stated that she had already placed the clothes she wanted to wear in the trunk. It seemed they had no choice but to go. It's very dangerous to be struck by lightning at the mountaintop. It's better not to take the risk, I cautiously advised. You can choke to death while eating, and you can drown while drinking, yet I don't see you eating or drinking any less. My sister-in-law immediately got upset when she heard me say that and snapped back at me. We'll just take a few photos and come back. Okay, Nancy, Harry has always been like this. He tends to give in to his sister. No, I've prepared everything. I have to take satisfactory photos, my sister-in-law insisted. Clinging to Harry's arm and acting coquettishly, on the rugged mountain road, the car jolted, startling me into a cold sweat. I knew I had to stop my sister-in-law, or the consequences would be unimaginable. At that thought, I remembered a good strategy. To deter someone from jumping, you show them how gruesome the aftermath can be. I quickly searched for some images of lightning strike victims and sent them to my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law looked at it and exclaimed in disgust, but reluctantly agreed to get off the car to take a few photos before going home. That night, we stayed at the scenic area. Harry took my sister-in-law to a bar to have fun, while I stayed in the room working overtime to finish a design draft. Suddenly, the door was pushed open, and my sister-in-law barged in, slapping me across the face so hard that my ears were ringing. She had been rude to me before, pushing and shoving, but Harry always stopped her, saying she was young and I should let it go. Being slapped for the first time, I immediately got angry and was about to retaliate. Unexpectedly, Harry, who had rushed over, stopped me and said with dissatisfaction, "Just bear with it. Nancy has a reason for being angry. Look, it's all your fault. If we had gone up yesterday, I would have been the one who got popular." She shoved her phone right in my face. I took a look and saw that the trending headline was hashtag "The Goddess of Thunder is Born." Zooming in on the picture, I realized it was a girl dressed in fairy attire, dancing gracefully at the summit of Thunder God Mountain. The wind lifted her skirt, and the lightning added a few wings to her, making her look unrealistically beautiful. If I had gone up the mountain yesterday, that person would have been me. Look at her. How could she possibly be prettier than me? Her nose is practically glowing, clearly a face that's been surgically enhanced. Mine is a naturally flawless beauty. I don't care. I have to go up the mountain tomorrow. We had originally planned to head home early the next morning, but with her causing such a scene, our plans changed, and we ended up going back up the mountain the next day. Unexpectedly, halfway there, we were stopped by a mountain security guard who absolutely refused to let us go any further. My sister-in-law reluctantly turned back. On the way, she deliberately dropped her watch on the road outside the car and asked me to pick it up. I didn't want to cause another conflict, so I got out of the car, but then Harry suddenly stepped on the gas and drove off. It turned out my sister-in-law had pressured him into punishing me, so they left me alone on the mountain, forcing me to walk down by myself. I didn't have my phone with me, so I couldn't call for help, and there wasn't a single person in sight along the way. Suddenly, dark clouds gathered, and a heavy downpour started pouring. I was wearing thin clothes and saw a house not far away, so I tried to take shelter there, but I ended up falling into a ravine, where I succumbed to hypothermia and died, and my death was dismissed by my sister-in-law as nothing more than stubbornness. She had a few words with my brother and insisted on getting out of the car to walk home by herself. No matter how much my brother begged her, she refused to get back in the car. I was suffering from severe heatstroke at the time, so my brother had no choice but to take me down the mountain first, planning to go back for her later. Who would have thought something like this would happen? My sister-in-law cried as if her heart were breaking, and anyone who didn't know the truth would have thought it was genuine. The only ones truly heartbroken were my parents. They cried until their eyes were nearly blind, unable to comprehend what their daughter, who had married far away against their advice, had actually gone through. Perhaps it was because my resentment ran too deep, but just like that, I was reborn. "I'm not feeling well." "Stop the car. You two go ahead." "I'm not going." I stared at the checkpoint not far ahead, the red light shining like a lifeline, and quickly called out to Harry. As long as I could get off at the checkpoint and explain the situation to the staff, I could find a way down the mountain. If the siblings wanted to rush into a minefield, they could go by themselves. "No way. If you leave, who's going to take photos for me?" As soon as Nancy heard this, she reacted like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. immediately bristling in the passenger seat and firing back in rapid succession. I specifically brought 3 sets of clothes to change into for photos, plus a fill light and a reflector. If you don't help with these, who will? I sneered, my gaze sweeping over her self-righteous face. Isn't your brother's photography skills top-notch? Just yesterday, you posted a selfie he took for you on your social media, saying the best brother and photographer in the world. How come when it comes to serious matters, he suddenly isn't good enough? Besides, when it comes to your makeup and jewelry, hasn't he always carried your bags? Taking a few photos is nothing he can't handle. Nancy was so choked by my words that her face turned bright red, yet she couldn't find any fault in what I said. She could only stubbornly act unreasonable. He's good at taking pictures of people, but not landscapes. You've won awards in photography, and you're majoring in graphic design. You understand composition and lighting, so of course, you should be the one to take the photos. Anyway, I say no means no, and you're not going anywhere today. As she spoke, she reached for the gear lever next to the steering wheel, as if afraid Harry would actually listen to me and stop the car. Wishing she could lock it herself, Harry coughed twice from the driver's seat, trying to smooth things over. Rose, just bear with it. It's rare for Nancy to be so passionate about something. She's a young woman, and it's not easy for her to carry so many things up the mountain, let alone change clothes. Just help her take a few photos, it'll be quick. I was almost amused by his attempt to downplay the situation. Quick, taking photos quickly on a mountaintop where lightning could strike at any moment. Harry, have you forgotten what the warning sign at the scenic spot says? Staying on the mountaintop during a thunderstorm is equivalent to suicide. If you want to indulge her recklessness, that's your business, but don't drag me into this life-threatening game. What life-threatening game? You just can't stand to see me happy. Nancy suddenly turned around, leaning halfway into the back seat, her fingernails almost pointing at my face. I think you're just jealous that I'm younger and prettier than you, jealous that I can take photos that go viral. Are you hoping I get struck by lightning? Is that what you want? Her voice was shrill and piercing, making my temples throb with irritation. In her previous life, she was just like this, always taking others' kindness for granted and blaming all her misfortunes on others' ill intentions. I can't be bothered to argue with you. I turned my face toward the window, unwilling to look at her distorted expression any longer. Either stop the car and let me out, or go up the mountain yourselves. I won't touch the camera. How dare you? Nancy suddenly shrieked, leaning over and snatching my bag. You won't take photos? Hand over your phone. Let's see how you'll manage then. Her nails left several red scratches on the back of my hand, stinging sharply. I was about to grab my bag when Harry suddenly stepped on the accelerator. The car lurched forward abruptly, causing Nancy to lose her balance and fall back into the passenger seat, while I was thrown against the backrest by the momentum. Brother, what are you doing? Nancy yelled, clutching her forehead. Harry ignored her and just glanced at me through the rearview mirror, his eyes carrying a clear warning. We're about to pass the checkpoint. Don't make a scene. After we take the photo, I'll take you to eat the sour fish soup you love. The car indeed sped through the checkpoint, and the figure of the staff waving for us to stop grew farther and farther away. Watching the trees flash by outside the window, a chill slowly spread through my heart. Nancy snorted smugly, pulling out a small mirror from her bag to touch up her makeup while muttering, "At least you know what's good for you. Once I become the goddess of thunder, let's see if you still dare to give me attitude. I'll have my brother divorce you and find a more obedient sister-in-law." I clenched my fists, my heart tightening painfully. Obedient. In my past life, I was obedient enough, and what did it get me? Left to freeze to death in the mountains. In this life, since they insist on heading down a path of destruction, I'll gladly accompany them, but this time, the one who will pay the price will definitely not be me. Nancy was still chattering away, planning out poses for photos, one moment saying she wanted to stand on a rock with her arms spread wide, the next insisting on twirling with an oil paper umbrella, as if the lightning on the mountaintop was her personal backdrop. Harry chimed in from time to time, occasionally glancing at me through the rearview mirror. Seeing that I had stopped resisting, he relaxed and continued driving. I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes. The mountain road grew steeper, the clouds thickened, and the air already carried the damp, earthy scent of rain. Perfect. This kind of weather is truly worthy of Nancy's tribulation. As for me, I only need to be a quiet spectator. The car completely couldn't go any further. About 2 kilometers from the mountaintop, the mountain path ahead was mostly blocked by fallen rocks, leaving only enough space for one person to squeeze through sideways. Beside it was a bottomless ravine, and with each gust of wind, You could hear the echo of rolling gravel. What's going on? Nancy pushed the car door open and started stomping her feet, pointing at the pile of rubble with a look of disgust. How can this dump not even have a proper road? What if my dress gets torn? Harry turned off the engine and went to the trunk to grab their things. The scenic area has been closed off for a while now. It's a miracle we even made it this far. We'll have to hike the rest of the way. Pack your stuff. I'll carry the heavy things for you. As he said this, he reached for the bag containing 3 sets of clothes. Nancy tossed the heaviest camera bag to me, which held a DSLR camera, spare lenses, and a heavy tripod. The weight of it nearly made me stumble when it landed on my shoulder. In my past life, it was always like this. I ended up carrying all the bags, big and small, while the 2 of them walked ahead empty-handed. Laughing and chatting. In the end, I'd be so exhausted from low blood sugar that I didn't even have the strength to protest. I know. I lowered my eyes, my voice as calm as stagnant water, and bent down to shoulder my camera bag. I then quietly took out all the snacks and umbrella from my backpack and replaced them with 2 bottles of mineral water, a pack of energy bars, and portable hand warmers from the trunk. These were items I specifically asked Harry to prepare yesterday. At the time, he laughed at me for making a fuss, saying there were vendors on the mountain. Nancy was applying lipstick in front of the mirror, completely unaware of my little adjustments, while Harry was explaining the route up the mountain to her. The 2 of them huddled together, whispering, treating me as if I were invisible. Good, the less attention I get, the more I can focus on preparing. Let's go. Nancy finished applying her makeup, stuffed the mirror back into her bag, and took the lead up the mountain. She was wearing a pair of stiletto boots, stumbling on the gravel path, yet she insisted on walking with her head held high, careful not to let her skirt get even a speck of dust on it. Harry quickly followed to support her, muttering, "Take it slow, it's slippery here." I followed them 2 meters behind, taking each step carefully before moving forward. The mountain path was more difficult than I remembered, with rain-soaked mud mixed with gravel, making it easy to slip if I wasn't careful. Nancy started complaining after walking for less than 10 minutes, first saying the sun was too harsh, then complaining about her feet hurting, taking all her frustration out on Harry. "It's all your fault, you just had to choose today to come. Look, my shoes are already worn out." She took off her boots and pointed at a small scuff on the heel, looking upset. Harry quickly crouched down to check her shoes, pulling out a tissue to wipe the mud off her soles. It's fine, I'll buy you new ones when we get back. 10 pairs if you want, just hang in there a little longer, we're almost at the top." I watched the scene coldly, taking a sip of water from the bottle I had kept in the side pocket of my backpack. I had deliberately saved more than half of it. Nancy had tossed her own thermos in the car earlier, saying it was too much of a hassle to carry and that she would drink it after taking enough photos on the way down. We climbed a bit further, and the clouds grew lower, the sky gradually darkening. The wind carried a damp chill. Nancy finally ran out of energy to complain. Leaning against a rock, she gasped for breath, her face pale. "Bro, I'm thirsty." Harry suddenly remembered to look for water, but after searching through his pockets, he realized he hadn't brought a water bottle. "Rose, you brought water, right? Give Nancy some to drink first." I shook the water bottle in my hand. It was completely empty. Unnoticed by them, I had already poured the water into a spare flask hidden in my backpack, leaving only an empty bottle for show. I finished mine. I was so thirsty on the way here. "You know how easily I get parched when I walk. What's wrong with you?" Nancy exploded instantly, pointing at my nose and yelling, "I told you to bring water, and you didn't, but you drank yours first. Was that on purpose? You just can't stand to see me doing well, can you? How was I supposed to know you'd get this thirsty?" I shrugged, looking innocent. "You didn't bring your own water bottle, and now you're blaming me for drinking. Should I have let myself die of thirst? You..." Nancy was so choked up she couldn't speak, her eyes reddening as tears began to fall. She tugged at Harry's arm, whining, "Brother, look at her, she's doing it on purpose. I want water, I want it right now." Harry frowned at me, his eyes filled with displeasure. "Rose, how could you do that? Nancy is your sister. What's wrong with letting her have her way a little more?" "Let her have her way?" I laughed, pointing at the steep mountain path. "Let her run to the mountaintop in a thunderstorm, let her walk on a gravel path in a dress, or let her die of thirst here right now." "Harry, get this straight, she's the one who insisted on risking her life, not me." My voice wasn't loud, but it carried an unprecedented coldness. Harry was taken aback by my retort, probably not expecting me to suddenly fight back. Nancy, however, didn't care about any of that. Seeing that Harry wasn't helping her, she simply rushed over to snatch my backpack herself. "You must have hidden water. I'm going to search your bag." As soon as her hand touched the backpack strap, I abruptly dodged backward, causing the backpack to hit the rock with a dull thud. I had deliberately placed the compressed biscuits, thermos, and hand warmers at the very bottom of the backpack, with a few pieces of photography equipment piled on top. With her long nails, she wouldn't even be able to dig through it. "Go ahead and search." I threw my backpack in front of her, staring at her coldly. "If you don't find any water, shouldn't you apologize to me?" Nancy was intimidated by my demeanor. She reached out halfway but then pulled her hand back, gritting her teeth and glaring at me. Harry sighed, pulled out half a piece of leftover bread from his backpack, and handed it to her. "Have some bread to tide you over for now. There should be water for sale at the summit. We can buy some when we get there." "No, I want water." Nancy threw the bread on the ground, stomping her feet as if throwing a tantrum. "I don't care. We have to take the photos today. If we don't, I won't let either of you off the hook." She made a fuss for a long time, but when no one paid her any attention, she finally quieted down a bit, though her expression remained unpleasant. Harry had no choice but to pull her along as they continued upward. I followed behind them, touched the hard compressed biscuits in my backpack, and a cold smile curled at the corner of my lips. "Go ahead and be thirsty, go ahead and be hungry. When we reach the mountaintop, there will be even more surprises waiting for you. In this life, I won't stop her from taking lightning photos anymore. I'll just stand by and watch how she survives the ordeal, and the supplies in my bag are enough to last me until they face the consequences of their own actions." "Actually, I've known all along that you can't capture a lightning goddess photo at the mountaintop, because those are all photoshopped." In my previous life, when she showed me those influencer photos, I could tell at a glance that something was off. I told her, but she just wouldn't believe it. "You're talking nonsense. That photo looks so real. How could it possibly be photoshopped? You're just jealous." "Whether it's nonsense or not, see for yourself." I took out my phone and opened the analysis image. The edges of the lightning effect have jagged lines, which is a typical sign of post-production compositing. The length of the person's shadow doesn't match the angle of the sun. It's clearly a cutout pasted onto the image. I've studied design for 8 years. Do you think I can't spot such obvious flaws? Harry also leaned in to look, his brows slowly furrowing. "Rose, is this true?" "Of course it's true." I put away my phone. The local tourism bureau already debunked this a long time ago, but no one believed it. Those who went to take lightning photos either got chased away by security or ended up stuck on the mountaintop in the rain all day, unable to capture anything. "You're lying," Nancy retorted sharply, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. "You just don't want me to succeed." "I don't care. I must get that shot, even if I have to Photoshop it. I'll make it look better than hers. Today, I'm going to see how she manages to pull it off." The wind at the mountaintop was fiercer than on the slopes, carrying damp mist that slapped against our faces with a biting chill. By the time I followed Harry and Nancy up to the top, my lungs felt as heavy as lead, and every breath I took was painful. The scene before them dashed their last bit of hope. The so-called viewing platform was nothing more than a bare rocky flat, without even a tree to block the wind. The supply kiosk they had heard about earlier had long since become an empty shell. Glass was shattered all over the ground, and inside, rainwater and dead branches had accumulated. Forget about staff selling water, not even a bird was in sight. Harry was the first to change his expression. He walked to the supply kiosk, peered inside while holding onto the doorframe, and then circled the platform. His voice carried a barely noticeable panic. "What's going on?" "I read online that there was supposed to be a temporary supply point here." "You actually believe what you read online?" I leaned against a wind-sheltering rock, panting, and said with a hint of schadenfreude, "The scenic area has long been closed off. Who would still be manning a supply kiosk in this danger zone? Did you really think someone was eagerly waiting for you to come film the lightning goddess?" Nancy, however, didn't take it seriously at all. She ran over the gravel to the center of the platform, spread her arms, and spun in a circle, her skirt fluttering loudly in the wind. "No one's here." "Perfect, that means no one will bother us. Brother, hurry up and bring me the clothes. I want to change into the first outfit." She pointed at the suitcase in Harry's hand, her tone matter-of-fact. Harry hesitated for a moment, glancing at the gloomy sky and then at his sister-in-law's excited face. In the end, he dragged the suitcase behind the rocks. "Hurry up and change, and let's finish the photo shoot quickly. The weather doesn't look right." Got it, you're so naggy." Nancy waved her hand impatiently and began changing behind the rocks. The The wind carried the rustling sounds of her complaints, now grumbling about the collar being too tight, now cursing the dust on her skirt, as if she weren't on a mountaintop where lightning could strike at any moment, but in her own personal photo studio. I sat still in place, pulling out the thermal underwear I had prepared earlier from my backpack. While climbing earlier, I had deliberately worn a loose windbreaker. Now, taking advantage of their distraction, I quickly slipped the thermal wear underneath. The snug warmth eased my tense nerves slightly. In my previous life, I had lost body heat rapidly when trapped because I hadn't dressed warmly enough. This time, I would not repeat the same mistake. Rose, can you check if my hair is messy? Nancy walked out in her fairy outfit and spun around in place. The pale purple tulle skirt fluttered in the wind like a billowing cloud. But her carefully styled curls were already tousled by the wind, and her makeup had smeared badly, making her look both disheveled and comical. Harry nodded repeatedly while holding the camera. Beautiful, beautiful, absolutely ethereal. As he spoke, he stepped back to find a better angle. Stand on that big rock over there. Yes, right there. Let me see if I can capture the distant clouds in the shot. I watched Nancy climb onto the rock in her high heels and sneered inwardly. She probably still thought she could dance gracefully in the center of a lightning strike, just like in the photos, unaware that the mountaintop was nothing but biting winds and the ever-present threat of a sudden thunderclap. Wait a moment, I suddenly spoke up, pointing toward the distant horizon. Dark clouds are rolling in over there. It might rain soon. Nancy was in the middle of striking a pose when she turned and glared at me. Rain is even better. Rain brings lightning. Stop jinxing it and don't interrupt my photo shoot. Harry also furrowed his brow. Rose, don't always say such discouraging things. He raised his camera toward his sister-in-law. Nancy, smile, be natural. The sound of the shutter was particularly abrupt amidst the wind. Leaning against the rock, I watched Nancy's stiff pose in the viewfinder, saw her straining to arch her body backward for the sake of a pose, and watched Harry running back and forth in the cold wind to find the perfect angle. Suddenly, it all felt utterly absurd. They had gone to such great lengths to reach this treacherous mountaintop, chasing nothing more than a photoshopped fake image, a fleeting dream of going viral. Bro, did you get the shot? Was there any lightning? Nancy jumped down from the rock, stomping her feet from the cold, but still eagerly leaned in to look at the camera. Harry zoomed in on the photo to show her. Look at this one. The clouds in the background have a nice vibe, but there's no lightning. What's the point without lightning? Nancy's face instantly fell as she snatched the camera and started flipping through the photos. I wanted lightning, the kind that strikes the mountaintop. What's the use of you taking pictures of these boring clouds? You can't just make it appear. Harry tried to explain. Lightning is all about luck. I don't care. I want lightning. Nancy threw the camera to the ground. Luckily, it was still hanging around her neck and didn't break. It must be your lousy photography skills. Let her take the picture. She pointed at me, her tone frantic and irritable. I slowly stood up, dusting off my clothes. I can't take the picture. As you can see, there isn't even a trace of lightning in the sky. Besides, if a professional photographer can't capture it, what can an amateur like me do? You're doing this on purpose. Tears welled up in Nancy's eyes. Whether from the cold or from frustration, you knew all along we wouldn't get a shot. So you didn't stop me from coming up the mountain, you just wanted to see me make a fool of myself, didn't you? I warned you, I said, looking straight into her eyes, enunciating each word clearly. I told you the photo was photoshopped. I told you the mountaintop was dangerous. You were the one who insisted on coming. Shut up, Nancy screamed, lunging at me to hit me, but Harry grabbed her and pulled her back. Enough. Harry's voice was filled with suppressed anger. He glanced at the darkening sky, then at his sulking sister-in-law, his expression growing increasingly grim. Rose is right, we shouldn't have come here. Nancy, stop making a scene, let's hurry down the mountain. If we don't leave now, it's really going to rain. No. Nancy shook off his hand, took a few steps back, and stood in the center of the platform. I haven't captured the lightning yet. Why can others get it and I can't? I have to get it today. She seemed to have lost her mind to obsession, turning around to rummage through her suitcase. It must be this outfit. I'll change into something metallic. Doesn't lightning strike metal? If I wear this, it's bound to come. Both Harry and I were stunned by her words. Harry rushed over to stop her, his face pale. Are you crazy? Metal conducts electricity. Wearing metal clothes and standing on a mountaintop is a death wish. I don't care. I want to be famous. I want everyone to see me. Nancy, like a wild beast, pushed Harry aside and started changing her clothes. She hastily pulled the silver metallic sequin dress over herself. The sharp edges of the skirt caught on the threads of her tulle dress, but she didn't care. She just tore the threads and yanked it on. The wind suddenly turned violent, whipping up raindrops as big as beans that pelted down, stinging as they hit the face. A pale, stark flash of light split the distant horizon, followed seconds later by the dull, rolling rumble of thunder that echoed endlessly through the valley. "Nancy, come with me, quick." Harry's voice trembled with urgency as he reached out to grab her. "Don't touch me." Nancy shook off his hand and pulled a metal-feathered umbrella from her suitcase. "I'll leave as soon as I finish taking this shot. Look, the storm clouds are here. The lightning is about to strike." She opened the umbrella, its silver ribs gleaming coldly under the dim sky, making her look like a metal target standing atop a mountain. I stood behind the rock, watching this mad scene, my heart pounding violently in my chest, not out of fear, but because of a belated, icy satisfaction. In my previous life, I tried with all my might to pull her back, only to be met with death. In this life, I watched coldly as she walked step by step toward the ending she had chosen. "Harry, aren't you leaving yet?" I tugged at his arm. My windbreaker was waterproof, and the thermal layer inside still held warmth. But he was in a sorry state, already drenched. "The rain is about to get heavier. If we don't leave now, we won't be able to get down." Harry looked at his sister-in-law striking poses in the rain, then glanced at the distant flashes of lightning, his lips trembling too much to speak. He probably finally realized that the little sister he had always indulged had gone completely and irredeemably mad. Just then, a blinding white light tore through the clouds, like a silver dragon lunging straight toward the mountaintop. I could even see the trails of electricity dancing in the air. "Watch out!" Harry and I shouted at the same time, but it was too late. Nancy was still spinning her umbrella excitedly, shouting, "Come on, strike me." The next second, the lightning bolt struck her umbrella with pinpoint accuracy. Bang! A loud bang accompanied a blinding flash of light. I instinctively closed my eyes, only hearing Nancy let out a piercing scream before she fell heavily to the ground. The umbrella was shattered into pieces, with metal fragments flying everywhere. The rain poured down instantly, as if trying to drown the entire world. Thunder roared in my ears, and the rain blurred my vision. I stood frozen in place, staring at Nancy lying on the ground, feeling momentarily dazed. When I died in that cold mountain ravine in my previous life, was I just as wretched? Was I just as helpless? With no one to turn to? "Nancy!" Harry's scream pulled me back to reality. He rushed over frantically, knelt in the rain, and picked up his sister-in-law. The silver sequin dress was scorched black, Nancy's hair was smoking, and her face and arms were covered in gruesome burns. She had lost consciousness, with only faint moans proving she was still alive. "What do we do? What do we do?" Harry held his sister-in-law, trembling helplessly in the rain as raindrops mixed with tears streamed down his face. "Rose, quick, think of something, she's still breathing. We have to save her." I stood still, unmoving. Rainwater trickled down my cheeks, cold and piercing, yet my heart remained unusually calm. I pulled an energy bar out of my backpack, tore open the wrapper, and stuffed it into my mouth. The overly sweet taste spread across my tongue, injecting a bit of strength into my cold body. "What else can we do?" I mumbled through a mouthful of energy bar. "There's no signal here, no doctors. And even the path down the mountain is almost washed away by the rain. You don't expect me to carry her down, do you? How can you be so heartless?" Harry suddenly lifted his head, his bloodshot eyes fixed on me. "She's your sister-in-law, my sister. Are you just going to stand by and watch her die?" "I tried to stop her," I said, looking at him and enunciating each word clearly. "I told her the photo was photoshopped. I told her metal conducts electricity. I told her the mountaintop was dangerous. She was the one who insisted on running into the thunder, and you were the one who indulged her. Now that something's happened, who's to blame?" Harry was left speechless by my question, his hands trembling slightly as he held his sister-in-law. The rain fell on Nancy's charred skin, and she whimpered in pain, a trickle of blood-flecked foam escaping the corner of her mouth. "Call an ambulance, hurry." Harry pulled out his phone but found no signal at all. Just as he was about to dial the emergency number, a sudden thunderclap struck nearby, startling him so much that his hand shook, and the phone slid down the hillside. "It's best not to use your phone outdoors during a thunderstorm." I looked at him with a faint, mocking smile. "What are you grinning about? Your phone? Hurry up and make the call. I forgot it in the car. I didn't bring it." This was also the truth. I really didn't have my phone with me, because I needed to be without it to cut off contact with the outside world. It was just part of my plan. "We have to go down the mountain to find help," Harry seemed to have grabbed onto his last lifeline, looking up at me. "Rose, you're in good shape, you go down first to get help, and I'll stay here with her. Nancy can't be without me, hurry and go." I laughed, so hard that tears nearly came to my eyes. In my previous life, he did exactly this, left me alone in the mountains and took his sister down himself. In this life, he actually wants to pull the same trick again, making me risk heavy rain and falling rocks to find help for his crazy sister. "Fine, I'll go, you wait here." I slung my backpack over my shoulder, ready to head down the mountain. I left all the camera equipment behind, taking only the supplies. "Wait a minute. Do you have food in your bag? Leave it for me," Harry called out to stop me. I turned back, feeling as though I was seeing this man clearly for the first time. In his previous life, it seemed he didn't mean to harm me, he was just overly doting on his sister, but now, his true nature has been revealed. "I need energy to go down the mountain, shouldn't I be allowed to eat if there's food?" I sneered, clutching my backpack as I took a few steps back. "What if I get hypothermia on the mountain? Can't you see I'm completely drenched?" So he understood all along. Seeing him come to snatch the backpack, I wanted to break free, but how could I match the strength of a man? Once the backpack was in his hands, he took out a bottle of water and a pack of compressed biscuits, then he looked at my clothes. I quickly protected my windbreaker. "You can't even fit into my clothes. If you don't even leave me a piece of clothing, I won't be able to call for help. We'll just die together on this mountain." Harry hesitated for a moment. He was over 6 feet tall and weighed about 200 pounds. While I was only 5'3" and weighed just 90 pounds, my clothes would be useless for him. At that moment, his sister-in-law stirred and let out a groan. He rushed over immediately to attend to her. "Nancy, your brother is here, don't fall asleep." I quickly turned and headed down the mountain. These lunatics could stay up there and lose their minds. The descent was even more difficult than the ascent. I no longer looked back, trudging down the mountain with unsteady steps. Behind me, Harry's desperate cries echoed, mingled with Nancy's faint moans and the continuous rumble of thunder, but none of it could stir my heart anymore. I made my way down along the path I had come, planting each step with deliberate steadiness. The hand warmers in the backpack compartment weren't found, so I'll save them for a critical moment. The calories from the energy bar I ate earlier are slowly releasing, and I still have some strength left. I know I must get down the mountain as soon as possible, find a safe place, and get away from this thunder god mountain that once buried me. The rain grew heavier, blocking my vision. I nearly slipped several times but managed to steady myself by grabbing onto nearby shrubs. Memories from my past life flashed through my mind, the icy rain, the biting wind, the desperate cries, and the numbness as my body slowly lost its warmth. Those painful memories now became the strength to keep me going. I don't know how long I walked, but my calves began to cramp, and my throat felt parched and burning. I leaned against a large tree to rest, took out the hand warmers from my backpack, tore them open, and stuck them on my lower back and knees. Warmth slowly seeped in, dispelling some of the chill. In the distance, the faint sound of car horns reached my ears, and my spirits lifted. I knew I was nearing the halfway point of the mountain where the parking area was located. Once I reached that spot and found my way back, I could finally leave that pair of siblings behind and start a new life, but I couldn't call for help. If rescuers came up the mountain too quickly, they would survive, and wouldn't all my suffering have been in vain? I bypassed the checkpoint and took another path. I assessed that the warm patches would be enough to keep me going for a few more hours. I spotted an abandoned hut, likely used by forest rangers, and decided to take shelter from the rain inside. I started a fire using wilderness first aid techniques, though I still felt uncomfortable. As my body temperature gradually returned to normal, the discomfort lessened. I didn't dare sleep through the night. When dawn finally broke, I continued on my way. At the foot of the mountain, I found a household, and only then did I realize I had circled around to the back of the mountain. I started crying as soon as I saw them. My sister-in-law was struck by lightning on the mountain. My husband told me to come down and ask for help. "Please call 120 for me. I've been walking all night and couldn't find the way. I'm so anxious." I was crying uncontrollably, and the hostess wrapped me in a blanket with great sympathy. "That man of yours is really something else, making you walk down this mountain road in this kind of weather." I took a hot shower, drank some hot chicken soup, and waited with the hostess for the search and rescue team to bring back news from the mountain. A few hours later, the first group reached the summit, but both Harry and Nancy had already lost their vital signs. They said Harry did his best. He had brought Nancy under the shelter of the supply station's pavilion and even lit a small fire. For some reason, they were struck by lightning again and were charred black. Did these two incur divine retribution? What terrible deeds did they commit to be struck by lightning like this? A young rescue team member couldn't help but mutter. The hostess, afraid that I would be upset, quickly nudged him to stop talking. I know perfectly well that in my previous life, when they abandoned my life in the wilderness, they were already destined to face divine retribution. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.